More than 90% of all publicly traded companies could be listed under sin stocks. Okay? But depending on where you move that scale, sin stocks are basically stocks that have shown to do overall harm, companies that do overall harm to the human population, the health and wellness of the human population, right? So you got to think about it, and then after that, you've got to break down how harmful, right? Pfizer, NVO, RTX, Aerie, MTech, Match, Nike, VTR. Yeah. Basically how ethical norms impact the trading and performance of sin stocks. Here's the best thing to do on your thesis, okay? If you really want to do it, okay? Not for you overall, but here's something to add to your thesis. You want to talk about sin stocks, okay? All right, so real quick, for those of you guys who don't know what sin stocks are. If you want to get technical, more than 90% of all publicly traded companies could be listed under sin stocks, okay? But depending on where you move that scale, sin stocks are basically stocks that have shown to do overall harm, companies that do overall harm to the human population, the health and wellness of the human population, right? So you got to think about it, and then after that, you've got to break down how harmful, right? Think of something like Dow, right? Dow Chemicals. Well, Dow Chemicals makes chemicals that are very poisonous. Now, you got to ask yourself, are they considered a sin stock? Well, the only reason they're not dumping all of their chemical waste in the rivers and the ground is because of government regulation. Otherwise, they'd be doing it because it would make them a lot more money because they wouldn't have to spend as much money on safe storage, right? So you ask yourself, is it a sin stock because, or is it sinful because of what they do or what they would do, right, without regulation? Okay, break it down to with regulation, without regulation. So you start thinking of things. What hurts people the most, right? Like smoking kills, right? So you're talking about Philip Morris, you're talking about British Tobacco, you're talking about MO, right? What about gun stocks, right? Stock you talking about? Guns save lives. Okay, I got you. So you got Smith & Wesson, you got Vista Outdoor, you've got Olin, okay? What about military stocks? Not defense stocks, because there's going to be somebody out there. Military stocks, right? So you've got Lockheed Martin, you've got Northrop Grumman, you've got Raytheon, you've got Boeing, you've got all of those, right? You've got KTOS, right? What else is a sin stock, right? Well, now you have to ask yourself, is it something that the product directly harms people? Or is it products that are using what we would call, I can't call it slavery, potential human rights violations? Well, historically, you would add something like human rights violations, right? Apple, Nike. You could do the list of anything that was built in China. Hershey's, right, with the cocoa over there. So then you go going on that curve of how do you quantify what is a sin stock? What is harming people? Directly to the consumer or to the producer as well, right? And if you really want to get, soapbox high and mighty, I could do anything. Think about green energy and electric vehicles. In our mind, that's saving the world. But the amount of natural resources that are destroyed, that are polluted, that are wiped out, and the amount of human rights violations that are utilized in order to mine this stuff out of the earth is astronomical. And what we haven't even begun to quantify is the storage of the waste that comes from the end game of this, right? Think about solar. The best solar panels in the world are putting out 60% output. If you were to power an entire small town or a medium-sized town, you would have to have hundreds of acres wiped out so you could just fill it with solar panels. Because here's your town and your houses, right? You're going to have all of this being just solar panels, right? In order to power that up. So it's always like, how far do you want to go before you call something a sin stock versus a non-sin stock? Is it a direct, is the product directly killing people? Well, then we should put Coca-Cola, Pepsi, Monster Energy, I don't know what Celsius. I drink them. I may have a sponsorship one day, right? Sugar, McDonald's, or is that the slow game, the long game, right? So when you say this, the problem is that the truth is that the more a company, not on the consumer side, but on the producer side, the more a company can get away with violations the more profit they have and the more growth the company has in terms of equity growth, generally speaking. I know that sounds up, but if a company is spending, $10 billion a year on fair pay, health insurance, PTO, and employment costs, and then moves that production over to Mexico and they cut 7 of that 10 billion and that goes into their buyback or dividend and cash flow, I'm not saying that this is ethically correct, but that's just, if you're an investor, that's what you look for. Thanks, Stocky. Well put together. I will quote you in the introduction part. Don't quote me, please. Okay? You'll fail your paper. But what I'm getting at is that when it comes to the ethics of it, it depends on if you really want to write a thesis paper on it, because it's very easy to write a thesis paper on sin stocks of why they're bad or why they're necessary, right? You could play either side. They're bad because they hurt people and they do this, and then give a bunch of stats of how many people got some fucking, Roundup cancer and talc powder for babies and stuff. You could do that, or you could play the card of the necessity of these stocks and these companies, because without I hate to say it, but without exploitation, there is no innovation, and that's a tough pill to swallow. But it's part of how the world has always gone. If you want innovation, you have to have exploitation. It's a up part of reality, but it is what it is. At least exponential innovation. But if you really want to play the card, play the what quantifies a sin stock. Because all stocks could be considered sinful stocks. It's just on a scale. Do we quantify it on direct consumer dangers and the effects on directly to consumers from the products made by the company? Is there a secondary effect like high sugars and MSGs and fat, whatever? Is there is it something about the treatment of the workers? You could talk about Amazon. You could talk about some of those. Or is it on the unseen harm that's done? The part that we don't want to think about, that we pretend we don't know. Because as long as it gets to us quick and cheap, then it's okay. We just pretend that it's quick and cheap because we're really good at finding deals and not because some, 80-year-old woman in a sweatshop in some third world country is working 20 hours a day to support her family. And they have to put up nets around the company. And then, do we only care about the human toll? What about the environmental toll? As much as we try to tout green energy and electric vehicles and how much good we're doing from the earth by getting rid of fossil fuels, at what cost do we do to the toll of not only humans, but to the environment and wildlife and the wars that will be fought over resources? Stocky going to get this kid put on academic probation. Nets outside business buildings should replace coffee stations? Nah, because the margins on nets aren't that much. But reinforced windows, never mind. How would you MLA format Stocky as a source? You wouldn't. You would just plagiarize me because nobody would believe that a guy that looks like this could come up with anything that like that. So you're fine. They'd be like, this looks plagiarized. Did you get it from this guy? Oh, no, never mind. You're good. So basically, stocks that aren't essentially seen as sin stocks can be considered as sin stocks to the extent if you deep it. I might play the quantification card. Yeah. No, true. Because it's so easy. Because here's the thing. Everybody likes to call out what's a sin stock or what's ethically, or what's immoral because of the toll that we can see, right? But think about it this way. The same person who says to somebody, think about it this way. How many times do you see somebody telling somebody else, you shouldn't smoke cigarettes, it's bad for your health, as they're downing a 2-liter Coke, eating 3 cheeseburgers, and sitting in a computer, all day? The unseen can be just as bad, if not worse, as what we see. It's so easy for us to, as a society, to call out something as bad because it's visible. All the while, it's the same ticking time bomb is happening, maybe even worse, but it's unseen. Think of social media. How many times do you see on social media, whether it's Facebook or Twitter or anything, your friends or your colleagues or your acquaintances, they're posting pictures of them on vacation and they're happy little moments and they're doing stuff like that and it's all great. They're posting their highlight reel. You may be sad because you're like, I wish I had what they had. All the while, when they're not posting that, one of them's an alcoholic, one of them's cheating. Their kids, they're basically almost divorced. Their kids don't like them. They have troubles at home. They're in debt up to their because they're trying to live a lifestyle that they want people to think that they're living and having a good time. All the while it's destroying them. And in 5 years, their marriage is going to be gone. They're going to be split. Their kids are going to, it's so easy for us to look at something at face value or look at the direct effects or the visual effects and say, this is good or bad, or this is what it is. And all the while it's not. You look at me and you think, wow, this guy looks like a bum, right? My neighbors probably think we live in Section 8, but I guarantee we have a higher salary net worth than anybody in the neighborhood. And it's not what you see. We're just very happy with what we have. We still buy things, we still do things, we still enjoy our lives, but we don't feel the need to spend money on things to make other people think or know we're doing well. You know what I mean? We're very happy with what we have, and we're even happier because we don't feel like we need to play a game of this is look at me. Oh, we're so do. You know what I mean? It's the bamboo though. Okay, off. All right. Okay, maybe I go a little to the extreme. But when I don't have to worry about paying off my bills, except the IRS, and worrying about all that, and I get to spend time with my kids and do all that, it makes me very happy. And we don't post pictures on social media of us on our trips and doing stuff like that. I mean, in 2022, we took, 10 trips? 10 trips. They were short weekend trips, and we went to some place in Central Florida to a lake or to St. Augustine or to the Keys or something like that. I took the whole family, got an Airbnb, had a great time. Didn't post all over social media and saved money doing it. We enjoyed ourselves. We had a great time. TikTok is going to love your Taylor Swift class take. Okay, TikTok's not going to see it, number one. And number two, even Taylor Swift fans would agree with me that as much as they love...